All right, good evening, everybody. We should be live. Hopefully, I always have a little bit of a small fear that it doesn't actually go live, and then I just keep talking and talking and talking, and turns out nothing ever happens. So, if you guys are watching live, do hashtag live. If you're watching it on replay, that's awesome. Glad you're here. Hashtag replay just kind of helps to get to other people in the group. Maybe they need a little bit of encouragement and has it pop up on their feed or whatever, which is really cool. So hashtag live or hashtag replay. Tonight we're talking about something that is definitely related to health and wellness, specifically what goes on above the neck, right? So as you can see by the name, we're going to be talking about how to control our results by controlling our thoughts. And when you first say that, it kind of seems what's the word for it? Untangible, right? Like, okay, well, how do we control our thoughts? How do we control our results by controlling our thoughts? It's really easy to kind of be cynical, and I sometimes feel that way. But I'll go through a couple different steps on how to legitimately, and with everything, it takes practice to get to the point where, it happens more often than not. But just like with everything else, anything that is worthwhile takes some effort, especially to kind of develop that habit. But then once you do it, these principles and kind of this self-coaching model has legitimately changed my life, like on a very, very deep level. And it's changed my wife's life, I think, on an even deeper level with, because I feel like sometimes women face more psychological things, especially like with family. Like my wife is just very susceptible, I should say, to like her family and drama and things like that. And so this type of model and being able to work through things and talk ourselves into things, and it sounds kind of weird, but once we get into it, it'll kind of make a little bit more sense. So the model essentially goes, you have a circumstance which dictates your thoughts. You have a thought about your circumstance, then you have an emotion, you take action on that emotion, and then your actions obviously dictate your results. Now, this particular model is based off of a woman named Brooke Castillo, and she has a mentor named Byron Katie, and there's a lot of other self-help individuals who, it's interesting, separately they come up with different models on ways of thinking and the way that the world works. And then when you compare and contrast them, a lot of them have very similar philosophies and beliefs and things. And so obviously there's something deeper to it. And so that's kind of what we'll go through. And a lot of times people can go their whole lives and just kind of let life happen to them and let kind of the circumstances happen to them. And it's kind of an external locus of control. They feel like they don't have any control. It's kind of their external circumstances dictate how they feel and how they act and react and everything like that. But as you go through the model and get better at kind of coaching yourself through it in different circumstances, it can literally be groundbreaking. So we'll kind of dive into it. Now, I said that the very top, the start is your circumstance. Now, something about circumstances they are factual. They are neutral. They're not good, they're not bad. They are circumstances. They're neutral. Until we have a particular thought about that circumstance. And I'll go through some examples here in a little bit, but then our thoughts about the neutral circumstance, those are how we would describe it, right? Those are kind of like the adjectives. For example, okay, the car is blue. That's a circumstance. That's a fact. The thought would be the cool car is blue, or the blue car is cool, right? You have a thought about a circumstance or a fact. And then the emotion, right? Our emotions, it's a physiological response to our thoughts. It's a physiological response or a vibration that happens because of our thoughts. And those are typically, I like to boil them down to like a one word: frustrated, angry, happy, joyful, excited, mad. Like those are emotions. Those are the emotions that you feel And each emotion can come from different, some start in our brain and go outward. Some start, kind of in our chest. I would say like anxiety and fear starts in your chest and then kind of leads up to your brain. So that's the emotion. And then typically our actions, what we do, our actions, our reactions, our inactions, feed off of the emotion that we feel, right? If we are fearful, the action we might take is fight or flight, right? We run or we stand still. And then the result is obviously comes from that action that we took, that action, reaction, or inaction in some cases. So I'll give you an example that I think most of us have faced at least one point in our life. The circumstance is somebody behind you is riding your tail, right? Somebody behind you, they're riding your tail, they're right on there, they're kind of weaving in and out, and now they're right behind you. Or they speed up and then they cut you off, or they're driving really, really fast, right? Something that I feel like we've all experienced. The unintentional, right, kind of that default setting, usually the quick response is, oh, what a jerk, or how rude, or oh my gosh, what the heck is he thinking, or right, something like that. That's the thought that we have. And then the emotion that comes from that thought is something like, oh, I'm frustrated, upset, angry, irritated, right? Those kind of negative emotions. And then what actions do we typically take feeling those emotions, right? Maybe we speed up, maybe we cut them off, maybe we drive slower just to show them, right? So some of those negative things. And then the result is, one, negative feelings. Two, you might get into a wreck, or that sets you off in a bad mental state. And so then when you actually get to your destination, you're frustrated and you're angry, and those are the results. And then maybe you lash out on somebody that doesn't deserve it, or whatever the case is, right? So that would be your result because of the emotions that you had prior, upward. So an intentional way to go about it, right? So we're going to keep the circumstance the same, because like we talked about, the circumstance is neutral. It's neutral. It's not good. It's not bad. It's neutral. Circumstance is still, they're riding your tail. They speed up and they cut you off. They're driving really fast. So the exact same thing. But instead of, having the thought of, I think before we talked about, what a jerk, how rude, what the heck are they thinking? But instead, if we choose to think, right, this is where kind of your choice comes in. If you can cut it off on the circumstance level before it turns into a thought, the choice is, oh, well, they must be really late for something, right? Maybe they have an appointment that they are super late, and they, their kids kept them late because they were playing with their kids and now they're late, and so they got to get somewhere. Or, maybe their wife is in labor. I actually had a experience where my wife had 2 ectopic pregnancies, both of which I had to rush her to the hospital. But the second one, women typically have about 6 to 7 liters of blood in their body, throughout their body. And she had actually lost 4 of those liters inside of her abdomen, her abdominal cavity. And so she was quite literally internally bleeding to death. And we got her to the hospital. She had passed out. They had to cut her up north, south, east, west, and like completely. It was this very like ER TV trauma type experience. And you best believe when I was scrambling to get to the hospital, I was cutting everybody off. I was riding everybody's tail. I was trying to get her to the hospital as fast as possible because she was quite literally dying. And so in that scenario, maybe they actually really do need to get somewhere super quickly. And the thing is we have no idea. We have no idea what is going through, what other people are going through, what's going through their mind. And so depending on what our thoughts, right, the circumstance is the exact same. It's our thoughts about the circumstance that changes our emotion, right? So in this intentional model, we could say, circumstance is the same, that they're riding your tail, they're speeding up, they're cutting you off, all that stuff. They're running really late. This is the thoughts. They're running late. Their wife's in labor. They need to get to the emergency room, something like that. The emotion that would rise from that is probably more of like compassion or patience or understanding or kind of putting yourself in their shoes. I now at this point, I see somebody booking it, you best believe I'm hopping over because I have no idea what's going on in that car and I've been on the other side of that, and so I'm going to move over. I'm letting you take it. Like, you go, you get to where you need to be as fast as possible because that is on you, and I will have it in my mental state, that side of thing. And then what are the actions that arise when you have that type of emotion, right? So you want that the actions are get out of their way, move over, let them get in front. Whatever the case is, your action is typically going to be different. And so then the result is that you get to your destination safely, happy. It's an all-around better experience. And literally the circumstance is the exact same. The only thing that actually changed was your thoughts, your emotions, and kind of that feedback loop between thought and emotion, because they kind of feed off each other, and then your actions or results that follow. Yes, so being able to control your thoughts and therefore controlling your emotions changes everything. That is the way that some people can go through life and have the most, they can have the crappiest experiences and the crappiest circumstances, but they themselves are a happy, enjoyable, fun person to be around regardless of the circumstance, right? Because circumstances are neutral. The only thing that dictates if it's good or bad is our thoughts. So something that I like to do is, especially if you're struggling with something, writing things down can be really, really beneficial. So if you have something that you're dealing with on a daily basis, right, you can write down CTEAR, essentially circumstance, thoughts, emotion, action, result. And you can write what unintentionally is happening at that moment. And then you can fill in, okay, the circumstances, those are going to be the same. So you can, then you do another model of, okay, this is the intentional, this is how I want to feel about it. And then you can start filling in, okay, circumstances is the exact same. What's the result? You can kind of start at any point and move up and down. But one way that you could do it is, okay, what do I want the result to be? And you fill in what you want the result to be. Okay, so then what actions do I have to take to get this result? You would fill that in. Okay, and how would I feel about that? You would fill it in on the emotions line. Okay, so then what are the thoughts that I would continually think that would dictate those emotions? And you'd fill those in. And then that's what you would focus on in a very real step-by-step manner to get you to your goals. So we are all in a mode of trying to better ourselves in the physical sense. Okay, so a lot of times our goals is to burn a little bit of fat, put on a little bit of lean muscle, develop those habits of self-improvement, right? The little habits that add up over time. Focusing on our nutrition, sleep, water, quiet time kind of to ourselves, and then focusing on our workouts, right? So the circumstance is, for this example, the circumstance is I want to lose 10 pounds or I'm 10 pounds overweight, right? So that's kind of the goal or the circumstances that we're in. So the unintentional model, right, the way kind of on default is sometimes like, okay, I'm 10 pounds overweight. The thoughts are sometimes like, unfortunately, our brain tends to go negative, right? We want to kind of keep ourselves isolated and in our comfort zone and in a negative state. Unfortunately, our brain is not our best friend. You can train it to become your best friend, but off rip, if you've never done thought work or even recognized that you aren't your thoughts, you can separate yourself from your thoughts. If you never tried this, the natural or default tends to be a negative thing, unfortunately. So the circumstance is, I'm 10 pounds overweight and I want to lose weight. The thoughts, unfortunately, naturally, it's like, okay, I hate my body. I hate the way that I look. I hate the way I look in the mirror. I, don't look good in clothes. I don't look good in a swimsuit, whatever the case is. Like, I'm afraid to take my shirt off at the gym, at the pool. I don't want to wear a cutoff shirt to the gym because I don't think it looks good. Those are all the thoughts that we tell ourselves, right? And then emotionally, you feel sad, you feel unworthy, you feel negative, right? So you kind of see where this is going. And then the actions, the actions may be for a time, okay, I'm going to hit the gym, I'm going to go crazy, I'm going to go hard. But a lot of times you'll fall back into the, oh, well, I don't, you have these negative emotions and then you try to escape by overeating or, foggy eating or turning to other vices to kind of dull those emotions, which that kind of further facilitates the problem. And then the results are not the best thing. So that's the unintentional. The intentional model that you could go from there is circumstances the same. I'm 10 pounds overweight, right? You can start at the bottom. Result, you want to lose the 10 pounds. Okay, what actions do I have to take? Okay, I need to fuel my body with nutrient-dense foods. I need to move my body more. I need to do more cardio or strength train or stretch or yoga, right? You need to move your body more. Meditation, right? Work about what's going on above the neck, especially if you have those negative emotions, work through those. Doing the thought work, sleeping more, like those are the actions that you would take to get the result, right? And then the emotions that you would feel to fuel that action is, gratitude for our physical body, joy in what I am capable of doing. Maybe the emotion is positivity and love and wanting to improve yourself because you love your body and you want to treat it the way that it deserves. And then the thoughts would be kind of along that same realm of, okay, I love my body. I want to treat it with love and respect. I want to fuel it so that I can keep up with my kids, so that I can, have better days, be more productive at work, spend more time with the family. Like there's so many different motivating factors. And if the circumstance is the same, but the thoughts that we have about that circumstance, that can change the emotions that we have, right? And then there's the thought emotion feedback loop that you have, and that can be positive or negative depending on where you're at in that. You have that emotional feedback loop, and then that dictates our actions, and then those actions will dictate our results. And especially when we talk about a fitness component of bettering our bodies, I'll ask you a question, and this is more of a rhetorical, just kind of think to yourself, which do you think is a better motivator, especially long-term, if we're talking about long-term health and wellness, a better motivator of hate and frustration and despise of our physical body, or loving our body and wanting to fuel it and feed it what it needs, both physically and mentally, for long-term success, right? Obviously, I'm leading to the answer of the second one being the thing that we should be shooting for, where our motivating factor is that we want to better ourselves, better our physical state so that we can do more things and be more functional and enjoy life to the fullest, right? Because that's one of the reasons that we're here is to enjoy our life. And so by going through the model, and this is, I gave you a driving scenario and I gave you a weight loss scenario, but it can be applied to everything. If you continually exercise, right? Okay, circumstances are neutral and it's only my thoughts that are dictating my emotions and how I'm feeling. Like this can be applied to everything. If you aren't getting along with a mother-in-law, been there, go through the work, right? The thought that you might tell yourself on a consistent basis is, oh, well, my mother-in-law doesn't like me. And then if you go back, okay, well, why do you think that is your thought? And you have to separate and realize, okay, you're not your thoughts. What is causing that, or why are you thinking that? Okay, well, she said X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, do you know exactly what her meaning was behind that? You see what I'm saying? Like there's so many things are left up to interpretation, and so many things are relative. And just like the scenario of you don't know what's going on in that car. Once again, you don't know what's going on in somebody's head. And so I will leave you with this, that circumstances are completely neutral. It is our thoughts that dictate our emotions about certain circumstances, right? Emotions are just a physiological response or a vibration in our body that come from what we think on a daily basis. And then that dictates obviously our actions, and then our actions dictate our results. So if you want better results, we need to get better at acting differently, which comes from our emotions, which comes from the thought level. So from in a very linear way, better results come from better thoughts. If you can master the ability to master your thoughts, regardless of the circumstance, then your results automatically improve. So I hope that you guys found this useful. This type of thought work is something that I genuinely enjoy because it can legitimately, in a very real way, change your life the better you get at it. Because reality is legitimately what we make it in our minds, which is pretty cool. So hope you guys have a great Tuesday night. If you have any questions, put them in the comments section below, and I will check you guys next time.